Well, we have decided to do solar. Yay!
At least get our feet wet anyway.
Yes, when we first bought the trailer and were about to get on the road full time, we really contemplated on if it was worth the money to buy solar, and I think at the time we were kind of overwhelmed by the idea of it. We weren't sure how much we were going to need, really how it worked.
There was a lot of options, and it got to be very expensive very quickly the way that we were originally designing it.
Right, we thought that we had to go all in with lithium batteries and the inverter and everything else. And
a ton of panels and just the max basically.
Right, I mean, we were guesstimating that we would pay somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 for like a full-on solar setup. And so at that time we decided, let's just get $1,000 Honda generator. And that should work, and it has worked really well.
It has worked very well, yes.
9 months now we've been on the road and used it quite a bit. That said, that's kind of made us realize the benefits of solar and why it is more convenient than just pulling the generator out every time you need to recharge the batteries or run the microwave or whatever.
We've been in multiple campgrounds now that have certain hours that you can only run your generator between this time and this time, which doesn't sound that bad, but when you're wanting to go out and do things during the day, you don't want to have to sit around and babysit your generator.
Absolutely. I mean, every campground's a little different. Some are just anywhere from 8 to 8, which then you've got a little more freedom. But when we were in Glacier National Park, their generator hours were from like 9 to 11, 2 to 4, and 6 to 8. It was like, they were really strange hours, and so we always found that we were having to plan the things we did around.
Planned around our generator use.
Yeah, it was a pain. And we thought, you know, gosh, it sure would be nice just to have a couple of solar panels out there. Just
set up, collecting the sun while we're gone and charging the battery without us having to think about it, really.
Right, exactly. And so we kind of rethought that need to go all in with our solar setup and figured, you know what, we can just get our feet wet.
Yeah, let's just try something and see if it's even what we're wanting to do and what we're after.
Right, and we can always grow from there. We can always add on to the system from there. But let's kind of learn and start kind of small. So what we have chosen to do, there are two different types of solar mounting setups. You can either do a roof mount on top of your RV, or you can do a suitcase style. And we chose to go with the suitcase style for a couple of reasons. The first is that we plan on camping both in our van and in the Airstream, and with the solar setup it can charge both of those.
Right, we have a house battery set up in the van that we can charge using the panels, and when we're staying in the camper we can hook it up to that set of batteries and charge that. Right,
so it'll kind of work for both for us.
Yeah. Another reason was a lot of places we've been are shaded. When we were in Glacier, even if we were out during the day, we were under a constant tree canopy there and really weren't getting any sun. So right above the trailer anyway. So we thought with a suitcase setup we can put up to 40 feet or 50 feet of cable on it and move it wherever it needs to be to get some sunlight.
Right, exactly. And a lot of times when you're camping in a warmer climate, you're looking for those shady spots to put the RV under. And therefore solar on the roof is just not conducive for that reason. Being able to get it out to the sunny spot away from the trailer is ideal. So that's what we decided to go with. Now we chose the Renogy brand solar.
Yep. After doing some research, Renogy makes good products. They get very good reviews, and we felt we were comfortable going with them and that we would have a long-lasting set of panels.
Absolutely.
That we wouldn't have to worry too much about.
It wasn't the most expensive, but it wasn't the least expensive either. So it's kind of a middle ground panel. We're by no means experts on solar.
By no means.
We are just learning. Yes. So we could be making all kinds of mistakes. So just understand that. Now Renogy makes two different monocrystalline panels. They make their standard panel and they make what they call an eclipse panel. We initially said we need the eclipse The Eclipse is the better, more efficient panel.
Which is true. They are more efficient solar cells, but it just makes the panel a little smaller.
That's it exactly. Your 100 watts is 100 watts regardless of efficiency. At the end of the day, you're just getting a slightly smaller panel putting out that same 100 watts with the Eclipse.
And the weight difference between the two was only like a pound.
But it is almost double in cost. The standard panel was right around $130. The Eclipse was about $230. So it added about $100.
Right.
Just for a slightly smaller, slightly lighter weight panel. I could definitely see the advantages of that, but it just wasn't worth the additional cost to us.
Exactly.
Now, Renogy does make suitcases and sell suitcases on their own, but unfortunately they only make, at this time, they're only making the Eclipse in a suitcase.
In a 200 watt. We wanted 200 watts, so
we want
the 200 watt suitcase, they only made it with the Eclipse panels.
And you didn't get your choice of controller either.
It had a PWM controller, which everything that we've read said, you know, the latest and greatest is the MPPT. And that's what we wanted to go with.
And finally, we wanted the ability to expand on the same controller. So you have to buy the right size controller for the number of panels that you're running. So we were sure to buy a controller that would give us the room to add 2 more panels in the future if we decide we want to. So what we decided to do, instead of buying Renogy's suitcase, we decided to buy 2 100 watt Renogy standard panels at $130 a piece.
$118 a piece.
Oh, is that how much they were? We ended up getting them on Amazon.
They were cheaper than buying them from Renogy on Amazon.
And they're sold,
they came from Renogy.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
But so yeah, we ended up buying them for $118 a piece.
$118 a piece.
And then we bought the Victron charge controller. It's the 30 amp. It's Bluetooth capable.
Yep.
And we're going to make a suitcase ourselves.
Yeah.
So between the 2 Renogy panels and the Victron controller, we're right at about $500 spent.
That also includes some of the cabling that we thought we would need.
And then we went to a hardware store and bought the rest of the material that we're going.
Hinges and things to make legs, the cord to hook it to the batteries, things like that. And less than $100 we came out of there with almost everything we needed. We
should be all in somewhere right around $600 for a 200 watt suitcase with an upgraded controller that has the ability for expansion.
And the extended cable to hook to the batteries. The suitcase that you buy from Renogy only comes with a short cable.
Yep, this will give us the ability to get 50 feet away.
50 feet.
Yeah. When you compare that to the suitcases that Renogy sells, which it is their higher end Eclipse panel, but it is a lower end controller, and that thing is $850. So we saved about $250 by building this suitcase ourselves.
And it seems like a fun project.
So we'll see how it goes. We're gonna walk you guys through the process, and maybe if you are considering doing something like this, we hope that you find this helpful.
So this is the basic Renogy monocrystalline panel. Nothing fancy. It's the only difference between it and the Eclipse is the Eclipse is a little shorter and it has a black frame, which for us didn't make any difference. The panel basically comes as you see it. You get the panel. It's already pre-wired with weatherproof connectors, so you can hook it to your extension cable to go to your controller and then onto the batteries. So we went to the hardware store and we just bought basically a very small door hinge. I don't know, they're just regular old swivel in the center hinges. The reason ours are brass is because they didn't have stainless at the hardware store we went to, so if you're wondering why they're shiny gold, that's the reason. We're trying to keep it from not rusting. I've laid the panels down together, and I've used my hinges, lined them up end to end, and I've used my hinges to space them. So I'm going to take this piece of wood and put it under the lip. There is a lip all the way around the solar panel on the back side. And I'm going to mark these holes on the hinges and drill them out. Hinges are on, and now we have a basic folding panel suitcase. Okay, so we've installed the hinges. I've got 6 pop rivets in each one. The hinges come pre-drilled with 6 holes, so I use all 6. For now, I'm only using 2 hinges because that's what came in a pack. Later on, I find that I need one in the middle. I'll just purchase another hinge and put it in the middle. They're cheap. $2, I think, $2.30 or something like that, so not that big of a deal. Now we're going to go on to make the legs so we can angle it towards the sun, tilt it however we need to. Keep in mind this is all a work in progress, so you know, things might change or evolve as we use it, and we'll show you that later on down the road if we need to. But basically, my idea is I bought some 1" by 1" square tubing. Just got it at the local hardware store. It's nothing hard to find. I cut off a 3" chunk of that piece, and I'm going to pop rivet that. Because the frame is recessed here, I'm going to pop rivet that in as a spacer. And then I have some 1" by 1" aluminum angle. And again, we're using aluminum because we're trying to make it as weather resistant as we can. This 1" angle, we've laid it out, kind of angled it and looked to see where the leg seemed like it would work the best. And I'm going to attach it here with a bolt, some nylon washers, so it can pivot up and down and fold into the suitcase. So it's all one piece, everything stays together. I chose this as the top of the panel because this is where the wiring was. I'm not sure that it matters, just for me, this is what I chose. So what we've done is we've measured down from the top of the panel 12 inches, and I've centered my 3" block on that 12 inches. So if later on I need to move it up or down a little bit, I've got a little bit of wiggle room there. I can move it without having to move this whole block. We are just kind of emulating induction suitcases that are made. We feel we've laid it out on the floor and moved it up and down, and we feel like this is a pretty good spot for us. These are the basic components of the legs for the solar suitcase. This is my 1" by 1" square tubing that I cut in 3" lengths. I've drilled a 1/4" hole in it where I am going to put a bolt through here and make this so it pivots. And this is just 1" by 1" aluminum angle. I did have to cut the end that will be closest to the solar panel. I cut on an angle, so it kind of acts as a stop, and it also, when this was square, it would hit the back side of the solar panel. So I've got a stainless steel screw, bolt, goes through the leg, stainless steel washer, a nylon washer, and then I'm going to insert that. I'm going to put my lock nut inside of my 3" tube and then screw all that together.
Well, the original plan was just to do these outside legs, but after doing that and setting it up, we decided we didn't like how unstable that was, so we're gonna go ahead and do another set of legs on the inside of each panel. So there'll be 4 legs total, and they'll be braced in the center. Just want to make sure that it's as stable as possible, since we are planning on leaving it set up while we go exploring. Well, we got the 2 inner legs installed, and that has taken care of that stability problem. Those 2 exterior legs were allowing it to kind of buckle in the center. And so by adding those 2 interior legs and then bracing it, we were able to get rid of that and have a much more stable suitcase. Give it a little nice and stable.
I'm getting ready to wire up the controller for the panels and the tail that goes to the batteries. I watched a video online of another guy, I'll try to link it below, that used an extension cord. He said since we are wiring our panels in series, not parallel, which allows you to use a smaller wire size going to the batteries, I just bought a 14 gauge 50-foot extension cord that I'm just going to cut the ends off, wire it up, and put some alligator clips on the other end, and we should be good to go. The extension cord comes with 3 wire because it's for 110 volts. You can get rid of the green wire, we don't need that. And in this case, we're going to use black for positive, white for negative. I just happened to have, we had an old battery charger go bad a few months ago, and I cut the alligator clips off it and just happened to save them, so I'm going to reuse them now and put those on to this cable. So I'm just using a regular heat shrink butt splice connector to connect these 2 cables together, and then I'll cover the whole thing with heat shrink tubing to protect it. So I've just slipped a piece of heat shrink tubing over the top of both connectors. Give it a little extra strength, makes it look a little prettier. A little more finished, double protection. Alright, so that's our one end. These will go on the battery. If I can find where we hit it, this will go to our controller.
And we chose to do a 50-foot length because the research we did online led us to believe that we shouldn't get any amperage reduction over that distance with the 14 gauge extension cord that we're using. We figured if we find that much cord becomes cumbersome, we can always cut it down to a shorter length. So we'll start with 50 and see how it goes.
This is our solar controller, our Victron solar controller. I've hooked up the opposite end of that 50-foot cable to our battery. Positive, negative, black's positive, white is negative. To our battery terminals. I've also hooked up the quick connects that are going to go to our solar panels. So this is ready to go. All we got to do is connect the solar panels and we're good to go. So we are hooking our panels up in series, and basically for the wiring all that means is we're taking the positive from one panel and connecting it to the negative of the other panel. Renogy is nice, their panels are nice, they come with these, I think they're called MC4 connectors pre-wired. So all we have to do is click them together. They're weather tight connectors, they got O-rings in them. I also chose to put a little bit of dielectric grease on and around here. Just makes it easier to come apart and gives a little extra protection. So then we're going to take the remaining 2 cables. There is a positive and a negative, and we're going to hook that to our solar controller. So this is the positive to positive, negative to negative, and we're good to go. Now, we did make a mistake. So when I ordered this solar controller, I didn't take into consideration the thickness of it, because the original plan was to mount the solar controller in here permanently, then I could close it up in a suitcase and it's all in one piece. What we're going to do now is mount the solar controller with Velcro, and when we are done using the panel setup, we'll disconnect these 2 cables, this one, and then just take this and the battery cables all together and store them separately. Just something to think about when you're ordering your solar controller. It's not that big a deal, but if you want it to all be in one, which is originally what I wanted, you'll have to find one that's thin enough to fit inside the panel box. That's a wrap on the solar suitcase for now. We still got a few things to do. I have to get a latch to keep it closed and a handle. I'd like to put a handle on it. They didn't have anything I needed at the hardware store, so I'll have to find something. But
we want to test it, of course, but we're in a campground with full hookups right now.
But we're leaving tomorrow, so we should have an opportunity here soon to test it out.
Yeah, hopefully. I think boondocking may be in our future so that we can test this sucker.
Recoup some of our costs from this campground.
This campground and the solar we just bought. Yeah, we still want to make a case for it. Which,
and I think it's going to be one of those things that we'll use it for a little bit and see if there's any issues with it, and we'll continually improve on it.
Right.
But I think for now it's going to work pretty well.
Yeah. Hey guys, we have had the solar for a couple of months now and just wanted to give you a quick update. Everything has been working great. We are super happy with our solar.
So far, so good.
Yes, absolutely. We've had several opportunities to boondock, the longest of which was the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, where we camped with no electric hookups for 11 nights, and the solar kept us going that whole time without having to pull the generator out.
Yeah, it was 11 days straight and didn't have to use a generator once.
Yes, so it was amazing. In the past, when we would boondock, we would use about 15 to 20% of our batteries per day. Now, we try not to let our batteries get below 60% before recharging them. So we found we were pulling our generator out on the 2nd day. With the solar, even on the full Sundays, our batteries were back up to 100% by like 10 a.m.
Yeah, relatively early in the morning.
It was quick. Yeah. On the overcast days, it took a little bit longer, but always before the sunset, we'd be back up to 100%. So we are stoked. It's exactly what we wanted.
Very happy. So when we're boondocking, we are typically conservative with our electrical usage. We try not to leave lights on. We will even go as far as to use solar, like Lucy lights at night. You know, the only draws we really have are our refrigerator, which runs on propane, but it also has some electrical usage. Our water pump, our phones that we charge and things like that, our LED lighting in the rig, and
when we run the furnace.
Which the furnace tends to be the biggest draw, so we typically try not to use that unless we absolutely have to.
Right, exactly. We'll all snuggle up under a down blanket, and then in the morning when we get up and get moving, we might turn it on just to heat up the space. And to be clear, the furnace runs on propane, but the little fan that blows the hot air out is electric, and it draws quite a bit of electric, actually.
Yes.
Now, it is important to note that we don't use an inverter, so we're not running the microwave. I'm not blow drying and curling my hair in the morning.
No TV.
No TV. Also, we try to use 12-volt chargers. I'll let TJ explain this.
We typically try to use 12-volt chargers whenever we can. So like our computers, we bought a 12-volt cord for. Our phones are 12-volt cords. This way we don't need an inverter to go from 12 volt to 120 volts just to go back down to a lower voltage.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, is very inefficient.
Right.
So if you can use 12-volt charging devices as much as possible, you limit the need for your inverter.
Right, exactly. Our goal with our solar was that on these boondocking trips, we were hoping to reduce the need to pull the generator out to recharge our batteries. Right. And that 11-night stretch, and we had company with us during that time. Right. So it wasn't just the two of us. At one point we had 5 people in this trailer. And they're not RVers, so they're not as conscious of making sure the lights are turned off or not letting the water run. And even with that, we never had to pull the generator out that entire 11 nights, 12 days. Right. So it is exactly what we were looking for. It fits our needs perfectly. Everybody's different. If you think you might need to...
Yeah, everybody's usage is going to be different. Everybody's needs are going to vary. But this is our experience and our usage, so
right.
Take that with a grain of salt. But it just gives you an idea of what we're using and how it works for us.
Yes. Yep. So we hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all, be sure to leave them below in the comments. We'll be happy to answer any questions. We're by no means experts. We're learning every day.
By no means, yes. But we can learn together.
That's
Maybe
right.
you can teach us something, for sure.
Please do.
Yes.
So hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, give us a thumbs up.
And if you want to follow along on our other adventures, make sure you subscribe.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.